My parents abandoned me at 14. Now they're back begging for help, but I've found my true family with my brother and grandmother. I, 34F, am a New York-based illustrator for children's books. For 12 weeks in a row, my most recent series, Dreams and Watercolor has been on the New York Times bestseller list. Major cities around the nation are currently hosting my gallery exhibition, Childhood Memories and Strokes ***. The New Yorker has published my work, and I was been awarded the Cocotte Medal for my illustrations in The Forgotten Garden ***. This level of achievement wasn't always the case. I was a 14-year-old girl who liked art 20 years ago, but I was always told it was useless. When my parents, 65M and 63F, unexpectedly showed up at my grandmother's house yesterday while I was there during a break between exhibition tours, my past came rushing back. The same parents who abandoned me at the age of 14 and took my brother with them, leaving me alone in an empty house, were standing there shouting my name with fake smiles and expensive clothing that belied their despair. Allow me to briefly introduce my family and our journey to this place. In Boston's cutthroat educational community, my parents exemplified academic elitism. After graduating from Harvard Medical School, my father published multiple publications in esteemed medical journals while working as a medical researcher at Massachusetts General Hospital. After graduating from Yale, my mother worked as an AP chemistry teacher at one of New England's most prestigious prep schools. They were adamant that a person's value was established only by their educational background and prospective earnings. From my very first recollections, our household seemed less like a home and more like a distinguished educational institution. Academic honors, medical journals, and achievement certificates dotted the walls. The topics of discussion at dinner included the most recent academic papers and Ivy League acceptance rates. In front of their equally aristocratic acquaintances, my parents paraded my brother's academic accomplishments at their many dinner parties. The jewel in their crown was my brother. He was prepared for medical school from the time he could read, as evidenced by his flawless SAT scores by his junior year, consecutive A's in every AP course, and his leadership of the math team and scientific club. Despite his innate academic prowess, I occasionally caught him yearningly gazing at the basketball court during his required study sessions. However, I was unique. I was drawn to painting as soon as I could grasp a crayon. I was using photos to create whole stories while other children were learning their ABCs. My artistic skills were recognized by my preschool teachers, but my parents disregarded them as cute but impractical. Despite their constant promotion of instructive movies and academic flashcards, I always returned to my sketchbook. By middle school, there was a huge difference between what my parents expected of me and what I actually experienced. My grades were extremely erratic. Even after hours of forced tutoring, I would hardly pass mathematics but receive an A+ in literature when we studied poetry. My haven was art class. My parents never showed up for the ceremonies, even though I won the statewide Young Artist competition 3 times in a row. My first true supporter was Mrs. Thompson, my art teacher at Franklin Middle School. She acknowledged not only my technical proficiency but also my distinct visual narrative style. She would remain after school to teach me new skills and tell me, "You have a gift. People are moved by your art." She made several attempts to contact my parents with notes about scholarships for art school and potential careers in drawing and animation. Those notes, always followed by my mother's characteristic scoff, inevitably ended up in the trash. As we grew older, the differences between my brothers and my lives became more noticeable. He received new clothes for each academic accomplishment, visited academic summer camps at prestigious colleges, and had private tutors for every topic. In the meantime, I spent summers alone myself in my room while they took my brother on college campus tours, wore my brother's hand-me-downs despite being a girl, and ate whatever was left over after their family dinners, which I was frequently told to forgo in order to concentrate on getting better grades. The infrequent times I spent with my brother were the only positive aspects of our family. He occasionally crept into my room late at night to help me with my arithmetic homework and bring refreshments from his study sessions. "Your drawings are amazing," he would mutter as he carefully perused my sketchbook. I wish I could create something like this. Although those times of intimacy were priceless, they were always tempered by the awareness that publicly endorsing me would put him in danger of being targeted by our parents. Home life grew more and more alone. My parents no longer acknowledged me unless it was to bring up yet another academic setback. They told me I needed to do my own laundry by setting up a washing machine in the basement and placing an instructional DVD close by. When they weren't around, I had to scrounge meals out of the refrigerator. My room, which was stocked with art equipment I had saved up for by gathering recyclables and helping out around the house, became both my haven and my jail. After then, everything changed on that Tuesday in April. After looking over my portfolio, Mrs. Thompson was overjoyed. She exclaimed, "This is college-level work," while displaying pamphlets from many art schools. "With your talent, you could get a full scholarship." I felt for the first time that there were actual options for my future. With aspirations of art school and a future where I could be myself, I recall almost flying home. However, the house felt different, empty. When I opened the front door, there were none of the typical sounds of my mother typing or my brother's study music. The quiet was overwhelming. A note was placed on the dining room table, the same table where I was not permitted to eat with them. It was my mother's handwriting, chilly and exact. "Your brother will be moving to a different school. We've made it possible for you to live here." That was it. No contact details, no explanation, no farewell. I was left behind like unwanted furniture in a house that had been abandoned after they had stolen my brother. I passed out in the hallway, my portfolio all over the floor, my tears mingling with my sketches. I sat there for hours trying to figure out what I had done to merit such total desertion. Even though it was getting dark inside the house, I was unable to move. I mistakenly hoped that they would return, that this was simply some fancy lesson about academic dedication. As I heard every creak and moan of the house, practical concerns started to surface as the shock subsided. I was 14 years old. How was I to survive on my own? What about expenses for education, bills and food? In my distress, a recollection of my grandmother came to mind. We used to see her frequently before my mother and her had an inexplicable falling out. She was a foster home caregiver who never questioned my love of art and always had a special grin for me. I spent hours looking through old documents and cabinets before discovering an address book hidden under the landline phone. With shaking hands, I called her number, hoping it was still active. I started crying when her kind voice voice answered. I was able to describe what had transpired despite my emotions. "I'll come right away, sweetheart," she responded without hesitation, "and I will never forget that. Bring anything that is important to you." Considering that she lived 2 hours away, my grandmother came in record time. She remained silent when she saw me with my painting tools all about me, my clothing filthy and my face wet with tears. She simply gave me a hug while softly caressing my hair in a way I had nearly forgotten was possible. She whispered, "You're beautiful, Art," as she studied my strewn about drawings. "Let's get you and your talent somewhere safe." My life was totally altered by the years I spent with my grandmother. She resided in an ancient house surrounded by nature in a little hamlet in western Massachusetts. My new school was completely different from my previous one. It was smaller, more caring, and had teachers who valued me as a person rather than just my GPA. I was able to breathe for the first time. My grandmother used some legal wrangling to convince my parents to give minimum financial support. I later found out that she had threatened them with child services and public exposure. But that was all they were involved in. I never saw or spoke to them, and I never even got a birthday card. My granny turned into my staunchest ally. Using materials she found at flea markets and yard sales, she converted the sunroom into an art studio. She used to say, "Art supplies are an investment in your future, even in times of financial hardship." She helped me prepare my first portfolio, photographed every piece I made, and went to every art show. I saved every cent for art school by working part-time jobs throughout high school. Because my teachers helped me make connections between art and other courses, rather than because I felt under pressure. My grades also improved. Perspective and composition became central to geometry. I learned about color theory and pigments thanks to chemistry. My illustrations were inspired by history. With the help of my grandmother's constant support, part-time job, and student loans, I managed to attend the Rhode Island School of Design after winning a partial scholarship. College changed my life. I discovered my voice, my community, and my style. A small publishing business became interested in my thesis idea, a children's book about a young artist figuring things out. It wasn't an easy road to success. I barely made enough money from my first novels to pay off my student loans. I worked as a freelancer, lived in a small studio apartment, and occasionally questioned whether my parents were correct to say that art was not practical. However, I persisted in pushing, creating, and believing in the road that my grandma had guided me to. Then everything changed 3 years ago. My grandmother's garden and her loving nature served as the inspiration for my book The Forgotten Garden which appealed to both parents and kids. Finding your own way, growing up unique, and the strength of unconditional love were all common themes in the pictures. The subsequent triumph still seems unreal at times. Which leads me to yesterday, when my folks showed up at my grandmother's house out of the blue. They had obviously been keeping tabs on my achievements. They noted my recent accolades and cited reviews of my work, but their well-groomed exterior belied their dire circumstances. I know the truth about their current situation via mutual contacts. Due to his handling of female patients and employees with less prominent educational backgrounds, my father is the target of numerous harassment claims at the hospital. After recordings of my mother bullying students and younger teachers and disparaging their academic backgrounds and future prospects came to light, she was compelled to step down. Standing on my grandmother's porch yesterday, they claimed that we were kin. Families ought to help one another. However, I felt nothing except a chilly, unmistakable certainty as I stood there and stared at these individuals who had deserted me when I needed them most and who had only come back now that I was succeeding and they were having problems. I flatly rejected them. They erupted, yelling about familial responsibilities and filial piety. I was now expected to support the same parents who had thought me unworthy of their time and affection. A temporary restraining order was granted by the police as the situation worsened and neighbors called them. Through it all, my grandma, who is now in her 80s but is still my rock, supported me. As I looked at her, I realized what true family is. Acceptance, love, and support rather than biological ties or duties. I'm still absorbing everything as I type this. I'm putting my most recent book tour on hold while I handle this. Through a variety of channels, my parents are attempting to get in touch with me, claiming that I have a duty to assist them and that family comes first. In an attempt to guilt me into doing the right thing, some members of my extended family have begun to phone. However, I know I'm already doing the right thing as I sit here in my grandmother's sunroom, surrounded by the art supplies she continues to gather for me just because. I'm considering filing a lawsuit to formally break off any connections that may still exist. However, I have some concerns regarding my brother. When I last heard from him, he had left the nation years ago because he could no longer stand our parents' domineering behavior. I occasionally question whether he is aware of my accomplishments, whether he has read my books, and whether he recalls those late-night periods when he was the only person who had faith in me. Has anyone else had to deal with toxic parents that want to get back in touch after succeeding? How did you respond to it? The effects of decades of their emotional manipulation are still felt, even though I know I'm justified in protecting my grandmother and myself. Update 1. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone for their encouraging words and remarks. Over the last 48 hours, the situation has greatly worsened, and I must disclose what has transpired. Yesterday morning, my parents returned to my grandmother's house, this time accompanied by a lawyer. They yelled about filial responsibilities and family duties while standing in the front yard. According to the legal paperwork my father was displaying, they might use state law to compel me to provide financial assistance. It was an unreal scene. My mother, who had previously denied my existence except to be critical of my waste of time artwork, was now sobbing as she spoke of her pride in my natural talent. My father, who used to make fun of my art teacher's job advice, now asserted that he had always encouraged my artistic endeavors. When our neighbors heard the disturbance, they came outside. The fact that these well-dressed individuals were the same parents who had deserted their 14-year-old daughter startled Mrs. Sullivan, who had lived next door to my grandmother for 30 years. While her husband began filming the incident, she promptly contacted the police. My parents attempted to present themselves to the officers as worried parents trying to get back in touch with their accomplished daughter. Nevertheless, a number of neighbors came forward to testify that my grandma had been parenting me by herself since I was 14. The fact that my parents had left a youngster alone with only a message piqued the officers' curiosity. Officer Martinez was really sympathetic. She clarified that, notwithstanding their assertions, I am not legally obligated to provide for my parents' current financial hardships. Because they were harassing my grandmother and causing her grief, she assisted us in requesting an immediate restraining order. The most telling incident occurred when my father lost his temper with the cops and began to rant about academic credentials and how he couldn't comprehend how his failure of a daughter had outperformed him. The same arrogant bully who had ruined my youth was exposed when his painstakingly built facade fell apart. Our neighbors set up a makeshift neighborhood watch when they were forced out. They have agreed to record any further attempts to get in touch and are keeping a watch on my parents' automobile. For our records, Mrs. Sullivan even sent us security camera footage. We have a compelling case for a permanent restraining order, according to my attorney. She's also looking into the possible legal repercussions of their leaving me when I was a kid. Although I have no interest in filing charges, she believes that knowing this information could deter them. The way that this circumstance has brought to light the actual meaning of family and community is really remarkable. My biological parents have never been as concerned or supportive as my neighbors. Every morning, Mrs. Sullivan delivers freshly baked bread to my grandma, and Mr. Chin on the other side of the street put extra security lights at no cost. Although my grandmother is managing everything with incredible fortitude, I'm concerned about the stress this is putting her under. Although she claims to be fine, I've seen that she gets weary more readily. I've made the decision to remain longer and work from home for a time. My publisher has been accommodating when I've had to postpone several appearances. The complicated feelings this evokes are the most difficult aspect. Even while I'm adamant about my choice, a tiny part of me, that 14-year-old girl who was abandoned, still wants to know why. Then why wasn't I good enough? Why are they just interested in me now? I know I'm making the correct decision though, when I think of my grandma, who loved me without conditions when they were unable to love me at all. This is the subject of a new art series I've started. Therapeutic drawings that express feelings I find difficult to express. Sometimes, just like when I was 14 and first moved into her home, my grandma watches me work. Asterisk. They may have given you life, but you gave yourself permission to live it, she stated yesterday, and that truly resonated with me. Many have inquired about my brother. Even though I don't communicate with him anymore, this circumstance has caused me to think about him a lot. I hope he's discovered his own way to liberty. Today, my brother showed up at my grandmother's place, which was unexpected. I nearly didn't recognize him at first because of how much he's changed. He has a photographer's tan from working outside, and his hair is longer and pulled back in a casual ponytail. However, his smile matched my memory exactly when he stated my name. I discovered that he has been capturing cultures and landscapes all over the world as a travel photographer. He has been following my career since he watched me on the news in Rome when I was awarded the Toccat Medal. He showed me several of my books that he had gathered from other nations and remarked, "Your illustrations tell stories that transcend language." He told me his story over glasses of my grandmother's chamomile tea. He started to doubt our parents' strict academic ideals during his senior year of college, when he was surrounded by colleagues following their own varied pursuits. The last straw for him was learning that they had been surreptitiously keeping tabs on his college activities and attempting to influence his course choices to fit their goals for medical school. He clarified, "One day, I just couldn't take it anymore. I purchased a one-way ticket to Europe and left a note saying, 'Don't look for me.'" He began working odd jobs and staying in hostels before realizing he had a knack for photography. Since a travel publication saw his social media photos, he has been taking pictures all around the world. Then he turned to face me, his eyes watering. "I really apologize. I ought to have gotten in touch with you earlier. I was a coward who was just concerned with getting away." As he went on, his voice broke. "I always thought of the little sister who used to show me her drawings late at night when I saw kids reading your books in other countries. I was unable to control my own tears." We discussed how, both of us ensnared in our parents' oppressive expectations, he would sneak me snacks and assist me with my homework on such nights. I said to him, "Back then, you were the only one who saw me." Like he used to do when I was having trouble with math problems, he reached across the table and squeezed my hand. He also discussed his knowledge of our parents' demise. After he left, their behavior seemed to have gotten worse. They became more and more oppressive at work without either of us to keep them in check. While Mom's verbal abuse of students and younger teachers finally caught up with her when someone filmed her outbursts, Dad began to harass female patients who didn't reach his educational standards. Occasionally, my grandmother wiped away tears as she observed our reunion from her favorite armchair. She disappeared into the kitchen to make her unique candied sweet potatoes, which she used to make for our infrequent visits as children. When we inquired about lunch, the flavor reminded us of the good old days before our parents' greed ruined everything. We discussed future plans over dessert. The location of my brother's upcoming photographic project is only a few hours away in New York. As we looked at old pictures my grandmother had saved, my brother reflected, "Sometimes I wonder if they ever loved us." We're going to hold monthly family meals here at grandmother's house. Real family dinners, full of love and acceptance instead of academic pressure and judgment. "Perhaps in their own perverted manner," I answered, "but they were more in love with their conception of success." He nodded, fully comprehending. "No more 20-year gaps, okay?" my brother said as he gave me a hard hug before he left. "Little sister, you're trapped with me now." I was at ease with my choices for the first time since our parents returned. We came here because of their desertion, to a freedom and familial connection they could never comprehend. After he went, my grandmother said it best. "Families are sometimes made rather than born, founded on understanding, love, and second chances." She is correct as usual. Our parents attempted to mold us into their ideal of success, but life had other ideas. Through the lens of a camera, my brother discovered his art. Illustration helped me discover mine. Together, we discovered the true meaning of family. I appreciate all of the encouraging remarks. Yes, the restraining order against our parents is still in effect. Even though our new family is smaller, it has a stronger foundation than any degree could ever offer. 2 weeks have passed since my brother's unannounced homecoming, and I feel ready to finally discuss how things have calmed down. A lovely event that encapsulates our new reality occurred today. On the few occasions that our parents would allow us to visit as children, my grandmother would prepare her special candied sweet potatoes, which she surprised us with. As she placed the dish on the table, she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling, "I've been waiting years to see you two share these again." My brother and I looked at each other and giggled as we recalled how, when our parents weren't there, he would covertly store some for me. Through mutual contacts, we discovered more information about our parents' current circumstances over the sweet potatoes. potatoes. The whole story is worse than we first believed. In addition to his unwanted approaches on female patients from what he deemed to be suitable academic backgrounds, Dad's harassment at the hospital was not limited to his educational background. In the meantime, Mom's bullying at school had gotten so bad that a number of pupils had anxiety disorders, which prompted several parent lawsuits. They no longer have any criteria by which to evaluate other people. After numerous complaints, the medical board withdrew Dad's license, and Mom lost her job when recordings of her criticizing younger instructors for having inferior degrees went viral in the educational community. They had to pay large settlements as a result of the cases, which depleted their pensions and savings. They now hold entry-level positions under managers they previously would have written off as having poorer academic credentials. Mom works in administration at a community college while Dad stocks shelves at a chain of pharmacies, both of which are run by managers with only a high school degree. As my brother put it, maybe they'll finally learn that human value isn't measured by degrees. It's a particularly ironic turn of events. To be honest, we don't care about their demise anymore. Our goal is to use the ashes of our history to create something fresh and lovely. Today, my brother came up with a fantastic idea. Every month, we will gather at our grandmother's house for authentic family dinners, free of academic scrutiny over meatloaf and without any exclusions. He is moving to New York, which is only a few hours away, to establish his photography business. He claims that observing our grandma with us served as the inspiration for his most recent project, which documents intergenerational family ties across cultural boundaries. I'm doing the illustrations for a brand new children's book about discovering your real family. Indeed, there is a charming grandmother figure who bakes enchanted sweet potatoes. In addition, our grandmother is thriving now that we are both here. The sketches I thought were lost forever and the covert pictures she took of my brother playing basketball when he should have been studying were among the old artwork and pictures she retrieved from a box today. She informed us, "I always knew you both had different dreams. I simply awaited the day when you could follow them without restriction." We rummaged through the box for hours, resolving old wounds and exchanging stories. While studying late at night in his room as children, my brother discovered a sketch I had done of him. I discovered a picture he had surreptitiously shot of me sketching in the backyard, fully content and coated in chalk dust. Over the years, our grandmother had kept these fragments of who we really were. There is no greater contrast between our current gathering and our previous family dinners. Rather than a tense quiet punctuated only by questions about grades and test scores, our discussion flowed freely, alternating between our grandmother's soft advice, my brother's travel adventures, and my most recent illustrations. The sweet potatoes, which somehow taste much better than we remembered, brought us to tears of laughter. My brother and I assisted in cleaning the kitchen as the evening came to an end, something our parents would never have permitted us to do as it interfered with our ability to study. With tears in her eyes, our grandmother observed us working together. "This is what family really means," she declared. "We have made the decision to keep the restraining order against our parents in place. Their persistent efforts to get in touch with us via different channels have only made us more determined. They had their opportunity to be family, as my brother put it. Instead, they opted for intellectual prominence. In the future, we intend to remodel a portion of Grandma's home. After relocating here, I set up a proper art studio in the sunroom where I originally began drawing, and my brother is turning the old study into a dark room for his photography. These areas stand for everything our parents attempted to stifle: our genuine selves, our true passions, and our true skills." As we were leaving tonight, our grandmother said it best: "Families are sometimes made rather than born, founded on understanding, love, and second chances." She is correct as usual. Our parents attempted to mold us into their ideal of success, but life had other ideas. Through the lens of a camera, my brother discovered his art. Illustration helped me discover mine. Together, we discovered the true meaning of family. We are grateful to everyone who has supported us and followed our tale. We serve as evidence that sometimes the first step to discovering your true family is leaving a toxic one. In response to inquiries concerning legal problems, we have not had direct communication with our parents, but we do maintain both restraining orders. Even though our family is now smaller, it has a stronger foundation than any degree could ever offer.